Hello and welcome to the last edition of Business 360 for 2022. I'm Shireen Bhan and the headlines we're tracking this evening. The sensex and the nifty end 2022 with 4% gains. With this, the stock markets have gained for 7 consecutive years. The PSU Bank Index is the top performer with 71% gains. Nifty IT, the worst performer, losing 25%, the biggest yearly fall since 2008. Concerned about countries like Vietnam and others benefiting from the supply chain shifting out of China, the Indian government considers reviewing its stance on Chinese investments. Sources say many global companies are keen to manufacture in India but want to continue existing partnership with Chinese companies as well. That's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. All manufacturing activities suspended at the Noida plant of Marion Biotech after Uzbekistan claims a cough syrup made by the company led to the death of 18 children. Sources say authorities have found lapses in manufacturing practices. Samples of syrups are being tested to check for the presence of toxins. The government is yet to clarify on the Vodafone Idea equity conversion delay, even as the telecom company continues to gasp for survival amidst an eroding subscriber base. All the necessary approvals, including the Finance Ministry's nod, were in by July. The file is pending consideration at the telecom department. China's COVID wave sparks a scramble for medicines as people queue up outside pharmacies. Hospitals are overwhelmed in some places, with patients being treated at parking lots. Experts estimate 9,000 people could die every day as the virus rips through the population. Residents of Kiev dash towards bomb shelters after Russia launches multiple drone attacks allegedly targeting infrastructure. China's Xi Jinping promises to increase strategic cooperation with Russia after a phone call with Russia's Vladimir Putin. Indian cricketer Rishabh Pant injured after his car crashed into a divider near Uttarakhand's Roorkee. India's cricket board says Pant suffered cuts to his forehead and a ligament tear in his right knee, but his condition is stable. Football legend and the only player to win 3 World Cups, Pele, dies at the age of 82. He's been undergoing treatment at a hospital in Sao Paulo for the last few weeks after his health deteriorated. The football world and fans across the globe mourn his death. Brazil has declared 3 days of official mourning. Well, let's start with the market action. It's been a last-hour fall that meant the Sensex and the Nifty ended the last trading day of 2022 with marginal losses. Financial stocks dragged the indices even as mid-caps managed to buck the trend. But let's take a look at the picture for the year. Now, both the Sensex and the Nifty have gained just under 5%. And this is the 7th consecutive year of gains for the markets. But this is also the first time since 2018 that both major indices have clocked returns in single digits. Mangalam joins us now to wrap up the year that was on the Lal Street and explains how India has fared compared to the rest of the world. Mangalam.
How did we fare against the world? We were standing tall out there as well. The Indian markets did a 5% gain as against the Brazilian markets just under 5%. And we far outperformed developed markets, the likes of Dow Jones, Hang Seng, as well as NASDAQ, all of them. NASDAQ was down 33% in 2022. But we also saw weakening in the currency because of the Fed rate hikes, etc. The USD versus INR pair, the rupee depreciated by about 11%. So compare it in dollar terms, we actually had a negative return of 5.5%. There was massive FII selling, right? 2.75 lakh crores. That's the amount that FII sold in 2022 in our cash markets. The domestic institutional investors, the resilient ones, bought 2.73 lakh crores. If you just take a look at the way the FII sold, this is the highest that we've seen in a calendar year in the history of our markets. So in light of that, how did the other indices fare? The Nifty Bank was a strong outperformer, 21.5% higher. It was a weak year for the broader market, so the mid-cap index just managed to close in the green, but the Nifty small cap was down by 14%. Let's drill it down to individual sectors. It was the year of PSU banks, 70% higher on that index. The metals grew about 22% at an index level, but it was a fair amount of weakness for the pharmaceutical pack and the IT pack, one of the weakest years that we've seen for the IT pack in the last many. Individual stocks, the latest entrant onto the Nifty was its top performer as well. Adani Ent did 125% in terms of gains. ITC got the top honors board as well. A lot of jokes notwithstanding, this year was the year of ITC with a 54% gain out there. Coal India up around 52% as well. A lot of the old power companies came back. NTPC up 34%. In terms of other underperformers this year, however, the IT pack, like I said, stood out. Wipro leading the way down. 45% cuts out there. Tech Mahindra down 43% as well. Divi's Labs did not do too well either, and HCL Tech Infosys down 19 to 21 odd percent. This year was the year of PSU banks. Like I said, 144% gain for UCO Bank. Canara Bank was up around 60 odd percent as well. SBI 33%. In terms of other sectors that did well, it was the defense stocks. Mazagon Dock almost 200% higher on that one. If you invested your money at the start of the year in Garden Reach, you would have doubled it. BEL itself would have given you around 43% in terms of returns. But that's not all. We had some other mid-cap gainers as well. Indian Hotels, 75% higher. TVS Motors zoomed ahead, 73%. Cummins and Federal Bank up anywhere between 40 to 66% too. In terms of losers, though, we had the mid-cap IT names, Mphasis, FirstSource, Birlasoft. All of them would have halved your money. So would IEX, in fact, from the start of this year, down 44%. We were coming off a COVID year, so we saw some declines in all these diagnostic companies as well. Metropolis, Dr. Lal, falling anywhere between 40 to 60 odd percent. And this was also the year where we saw all the new age businesses decline, and how? A big cut, anywhere between 50 to 60% on Paytm, Zomato, Nykaa, PB Fintech, Delivery, even car trade was down 45%. But let's end on a positive note. There were a lot of gainers from the broader markets. Adani Power up almost 203%, NDTV 210%. It was the year where sugar did well as well, 240% for Ugar Sugar, and FACT was up 180%. So that's the year that was 2022, an eventful one for the markets.
Mangalam, many thanks for joining us. And we're not done with the markets just yet. As Mangalam was pointing out, 2022 ends in the green for the markets. But can this winning run extend into 2023? Prashant is here with some interesting historical data. Prashant, 7-year H or 8th wonder?
Well, that's how we are framing it, Shireen, because I'll explain why. 7-year H or 8th wonder, right? I mean, this is the best 7-year streak that we've had ever in the history of Nifty. That's basically the headline, really. We've never had this before, except the 2002 to 2007 period. This was a 6-year period when the Nifty was up every year. And of course, then there was the 2008 global financial crisis crack that happened. The market lost between 50 and 60 odd percent. This is data all the way from 1991. I mean, actually, Nifty data started publishing only from 96, but we've got time series available all the way going back 1991, and that's why we are saying 32 years. This is 91 with a 4-year gap, 95, 99, 2003, just to give you a flavor. And 2002 marks 7 years of straight gains. As I said, the last 6-year winning streak, which is the best ever before the current one, is between 2002 and 2007. Now, let's come to a bit of forward-looking, right? For the Nifty to do well in 2023, to do really well in 2023, or even be in the positive territory, it'll have to be the 8th straight year. It has never happened before, right? So that is the first kind of, you can look at it as a hurdle, you can look at it as a challenge, but it's not happened before. Starting valuations are a little higher. This is 1 year forward price to earnings multiple for the Nifty. And the average for the last 10 years. We are starting at about 19 times. I've rounded this off. Last 10-year average is about 17 odd times or so. So starting valuations may be a little high. For, now look at the outperformance. The last time, actually the only time, the Nifty outperformed the NASDAQ by over 25%. Before before 2022 was in 2007, when we had a 25% outperformance. Right? This year, the outperformance is 28%. It's even bigger. We may kind of mope about the fact that 2022 has been a tough year, but compared to global markets, we've done very, very well. And then there is the pre-election year curse, if you want to call it that. This is 2018. 19, we had an election high to the close. Basically, the high that year to the close that year. The Nifty lost about 8%. 2013, 14 was the election. I mean, a minor cut. 2008, of course, was the global financial crisis. 2003 was interesting because the Nifty lost 15% in the first 4 months to the lows in April that year, and then it rallied over 100% to close the year out in pretty good fashion, right? But more often than not, pre-election years have been down years from the high to the closing of that year. Now, as I said, all of this data, the fact that we may be starting at a higher valuation, or this has not happened before, or there is global outperformance, does not sort of make it so that we cannot have another good year. It is possible. But I think, as the famous legendary investor Warren Buffett once asked, what is the what is the key to, or what is the key secret to a happy marriage? His answer was low expectations. So I want to use that terminology. We've had a decent year in the face of a tough global environment. We've outperformed handsomely. And I think it would be a good year if you kept expectations low and came out in pretty good shape by the end of 2023. Back to you.
All right, Prashant. Well, we'll have to see what 2023 unfolds. But thanks very much for joining us. And here's wishing you and the entire markets team a very happy new year. And look forward to seeing you back on Monday. But the big story this evening, and this is a CNBC-TV18 exclusive, the Indian government is weighing a potential review of its stance on investments coming in from China. Now, the government is concerned about countries like Vietnam and others benefiting from the supply chain shift out of China. Government sources say global companies are keen on investing and manufacturing in India, but they do also want to continue their existing partnerships with Chinese companies. Parikshit joins us now with the latest. Parikshit, what is the government considering at this point in time?
We're learning from sources that the government is concerned about countries like Vietnam benefiting from China Plus One strategy and is now mulling a recalibration of strategy. The centre is reviewing its stance on Chinese investments to ensure global companies relocate to India. Many global manufacturers want to make in India, but want to continue JVs with existing Chinese partners. So say Apple, for one, is keen on making iPads in India, but wants China's BYD, Apple's main iPad assembler, to be allowed to ink a JV with an Indian entity. Government may consider allowing BYD to ink a joint venture with an Indian company. Investments and joint ventures with Chinese companies has seen a slowdown since India imposed restrictions in April 2020. We're learning that government may consider allowing Chinese investments and joint ventures for intermediate stage products where India does not currently have technological expertise. Recently, 13 to 14 JVs with Chinese companies were considered for mobile phone and electronics manufacturing. This comes in the backdrop of Vietnam emerging as a top alternative to China in high-tech electronics. Vietnam is already Apple's sixth biggest supplier after China, Japan, US, Taiwan and South Korea. Google is considering shifting production of Pixel 7 from China to Vietnam, and Samsung recently said it will be investing $3.3 billion in semiconductor manufacturing in Vietnam. Looking at recent trends, India does not want to lose out on companies seeking alternative manufacturing destinations.
Parikshit, appreciate you joining us. And this is something that the government is considering at this point in time. And speaking of China, the country continues to battle one of its worst COVID outbreaks. Cases have been on the rise since the country relaxed its zero COVID policy earlier this month. Many doctors and health workers have been working despite being infected. This is due to orders from the government. Emergency departments are packed with patients. In some cities, patients have been seen receiving intravenous drips on streets and inside cars as hospitals and clinics do not have enough beds. The COVID-19 wave has also led to long queues for medicines at pharmacies, with Beijing residents complaining of cold medicines being sold out. There are serpentine queues outside many pharmacies in cities like Beijing and Shanghai as the government struggles to contain hoarding of medicines. People have also been thronging COVID vaccination and testing centres due to the fear of infections. Crematoriums in China also overwhelmed as body bags pile up at funeral parlours. Experts now estimate that 9,000 people could die every day as the virus rips through the world's most populous country. Back home, the union government has directed Marion Biotech to halt the production of all medicines. The Noida-based pharma company is currently in the dock after the Uzbekistan government claimed that 18 children out of 21 who consumed cough syrups manufactured by Marion Biotech had died. Abhimanyu Sharma joins us now with more. Abhimanyu, what is the action that the government has taken?
Marion Biotech has been asked to suspend all production at its manufacturing facility in Noida. The second round of inspection, which had taken place at the company's facility, ended late last night. The first round had taken place on the 27th of December, after which samples were collected from the company's facility and were sent to a Chandigarh-based lab for testing. The production has been stopped till the results of the samples reach the regulatory authorities. Any further decision will take place only after that. A show cause notice is also likely to be issued to the company. The company, in all likelihood, will get a time of 10 to 15 days to respond to the notice. The drug regulatory authorities from the centre as well as the state had earlier found deviation from the standard rules and regulations of manufacturing practices and they are still carrying out the probe. However, the results of the probe and more importantly, what turns out to be the composition of the seized medicines and drugs is something where the entire issue hinges upon, since the results are still awaited and the Uzbek government till now has claimed the presence of ethylene glycol in the said cough syrup, which led to an alleged death of 18 children. But the company till now has not commented on the composition of the same. So clearly all eyes would be on the composition of the samples and when the results will come out, that is when the next course of action will be decided by the drug regulatory authorities.
Debt-ridden Religare Finvest could get a new lease of life. Lenders to the company have approved a one-time settlement of dues. The consortium is led by State Bank and includes 16 lenders. Yash standing by with the details. Yash.
Well, Shireen, this one-time settlement for the company certainly gives hopes of business revival in the new year for Religare Finvest. Do remember that's the NBFC arm of Religare Enterprises, which is a listed entity. As far as this one-time settlement is concerned, this plan has been approved by a consortium of 16 lenders, which were led by State Bank of India. It was in the works for quite some time. Since the last 2 or 3 weeks, there were just a couple of lenders who were working out some external checks on this particular one-time settlement. And finally, on the last working day of this calendar year, this one-time settlement for the company has been approved. As far as details of this one-time settlement is concerned, Religare Finvest, the NBFC arm of Religare, owed about 5,344 crore rupees to 16 lenders. The proposal from the company was to have a one-time settlement of about 2,320 crore rupees. The intimation from the company on the exchange says that the proposal from the lenders has been accepted, which means this OTS will entail a haircut of about 57% from the amount which Religare Finvest owed to all its 16 lenders. This is done as of now. Now, what this does to the company is essentially 3 important things. One is, going forward, the company will have about 90 days to pay this one-time settlement amount. Second thing is that as this OTS or one-time settlement plan gets approved, the company will come out of the corrective action plan of the Reserve Bank of India, which means it will be allowed to focus on its expansion, on its lending business. So that will be positive. And finally, as far as the company itself is concerned, both partners, that is the parent company Religare Enterprises and Religare Finvest, will have to decide that out of this 2,300 odd crore, who pays how much does the parent pay, and how much does the NBFC arm pay towards this one-time settlement.
Yash, many thanks for joining us. Now, it's been 15 months since the Union Cabinet approved the conversion of Vodafone Idea's dues to the government into equity. However, the conversion, which is crucial for the telecom company's survival, is yet to take place. The government is also yet to clarify on the reasons for the delay. Ashmit joins us now with more. Ashmit, seems there is no end to the troubles for Vodafone Idea. We're at the end of 2022 and no clarity on when this conversion will take place, if at all.
Indeed, it's been 15 months since the cabinet, like you pointed out, and it's been 12 months since Vodafone Idea agreed to that government formula. But DoT has been very, very guarded, not only on this equity conversion, which clearly has not happened, but also on any possible roadmap as to when this guidance on when this equity conversion is likely to happen, one. And two, if it's not happening, then what are the reasons or the triggers behind it? Why is the DoT being circumspect, being very, very tight-lipped on this subject? But let's take our viewers through the timeline here. In September of 2021 is when the cabinet had granted its nod to this equity conversion. A few months later, in January, Vodafone Idea agreed to this government formula and decided that, yes, it's best case for the company to convert its government dues and spectrum dues into equity. And now we understand that in the month of May, SEBI had granted its approval. In July, Finance Ministry granted its approval, but that did not inspire any action from the DoT. It continued to be on a wait and watch mode. In fact, so much so that in the month of October, Vodafone Idea itself had to clarify that there is no legal provision or a guideline that restricts or bars the government from converting these dues into equity if the share price is lower than the par price of 10 rupees. But even that did not result in any action on the equity conversion front. In fact, and that let's also keep in mind that even while the 5G auction was happening and even if the 5G rollout was being announced, Vodafone Idea has not given any guidance on what that rollout could look like. Now, all of this is beginning to take a toll. Accumulated losses since the merger stand at north of 1.75 lakh crore rupees. In terms of total debt, it stands at 2.2 lakh crore rupees. As far as customers are concerned, they're losing confidence. Just in the months of September and October, 75 lakh customers have jumped ship as far as Vodafone Idea is concerned. So clearly, issues are mounting for Vodafone Idea as it transitions from 2022 to 2023.
Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. 2022 was a year of reckoning for the box office. Bollywood faced one surprise after another, with films pan-India smashing records and big-ticket mainstream Hindi films failing to rake in collections. 2022 was truly the year the box office came of age. Vashishta rounds up the hits and misses.
After 2 consecutive years of clouded growth, 2022 finally brought some sunshine to the cinemas. The start of this year suffered the lack of quality content, leading to low footfalls at the theatres. These led to a dent in box office collections, supported by Indians shifting preference towards consuming content on OTT apps. Even as Indian moviegoers hit the theatres, footfalls at leading multiplexes remained below pre-pandemic levels. But Hindi films like Gangubai Kathiawadi and Alia Bhatt Starer started pulling the crowd back into the theatres, clearly spelling out that quality content is supreme. This movie made solid collections of 129 crores. Other blockbusters like Kashmir Files, RRR, KGF Chapter 2 had longer run times at the theatres. While movies like Bhool Bhulaiya 2, Thor, Brahmastra, Drishyam 2 and Avatar were the big crowd pullers. Although the number of Hindi films crossing 100 crores at the box office this year was less than that of 2019, the pre-COVID year, also because quite a few released on the OTT platforms. But not everything was shining bright in 2022. We also saw some major disappointments from films with high expectations like Aamir Khan starrer Lal Singh Chadda, Vijay Deverakonda's Liger, and the Akshay Kumar starrer Raksha Bandhan. Each of these movies managed to clock about 20 to 60 crores as their lifetime collections. But as we end this year, Avatar: The Way of Water was the much-awaited movie and performed just as expected. Opening day collections at 41 crores were the second highest this year, only after KGF Chapter 2. Elara Capital expects the movie to clock 500 to 600 crores. Hindi and films which are dubbed into Hindi saw a total box office collections of 3,660 crores until the 22nd of December this year. That is thrice the previous year's number, but at 65% of the pre-COVID year 2019. A revival in footfalls in December has definitely boosted this number in 2022. This year, multiplex stocks have also seen some good momentum when compared with the broader markets. In fact, PVR and Inox have trained their focus on opening new screens and offering unparalleled movie-watching experiences. So as the curtain comes down on this year, are you heading to the theatres this weekend?
And with that, it's a wrap on the last edition of Business 360 for the year. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned. The news continues on CNBC-TV18.